Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking billionaire Robert Herjavec's rapid-fire advice and transforming it into a complete masterclass on the entrepreneur's life cycle. We've combed through his direct answers to the toughest questions aspiring founders ask, and we've organized them into a visual roadmap that's going to take you all the way from day one to scaling a massive enterprise. All right, let's just jump right in and shatter the biggest myth out there, the illusion that success suddenly makes your life easy. People mistakenly believe success is this finite destination, right? You just walk through some magic door and suddenly, poof, you have no more problems. Well, the reality, Herjavec points out, is that the problems absolutely do not disappear. They just get significantly bigger. So here's our roadmap for today. We're covering 1, starting out and those harsh realities, 2, the secret to actual customer value, 3, navigating the chaos of growth, 4, mastering sales and communication, 5, the billionaire productivity mindset, and finally, 6, leadership, pressure, and success.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, starting myths and harsh realities.
There is a massive disconnect between what people think starting a business looks like and the actual reality of it. People are constantly looking for a business idea that's easy or won't take up too much of their time. But here is the harsh truth. There is no work-life balance at the beginning. None. A new business is literally a living, breathing entity. And when it gets hungry, you have to feed it cash and time. It absolutely does not care about your kids' school plays, your gym routine, or your weekend plans. It just demands to be fed. So the most crucial thing you can do when you're starting out isn't to spend 3 years researching in a basement. It's to just go out and sell something. Look at Damon John. When he started, he wasn't building focus groups or hiring a team of analysts. He literally stood on a street corner and sold t-shirts directly to people walking by. It was gritty, it was chaotic, and it worked. When Herjavec started his first tech business, he didn't lock himself in a room trying to perfect software features. He just picked up the phone, called a massive corporate customer, and sold it to them before the ink was even dry on his business plan. Action, raw and unpolished, is always going to beat endless planning. Moving right along to Section 2, the secret to customer value. You know that classic interview question, sell me this pen? Well, the right answer isn't to start rambling about the pen's smooth ink or its ergonomic grip. The actual right answer is to pause and say, before I sell you this pen, tell me who I am selling to. Because value does not exist through your eyes as the founder. It only exists through the customer's lens. If you aren't crystal clear on your value proposition from their perspective, you're going to fail. Simple as that. Now, kind of building on that famous Steve Jobs quote, Herjavec points out something really interesting. Initial massive sales aren't always the ultimate identifier of a hot market. A lot of people think, oh, I shouldn't build a product until the customer explicitly asks for it. But that's not really how innovation works. Sometimes you have to be bold, introduce it to them, and show them a better way. Because what you are actually looking for, what you really want, is that highly customized, fanatical reaction. You want a customer to look at your product and say, wow, I literally cannot live without this. It's not always about immediate, massive volume. It's about the depth of that engagement. If you hand your product to someone and they have that fanatical reaction, you are onto something real. So ask yourself right now, does your product spark that kind of reaction? Okay, Section 3. Navigating growth and chaos. You know how popular a startup culture loves to celebrate those huge, fiery, bankrupting failures? Well, contrary to that trend, experienced investors actually hate complete failures. They much prefer to see a timeline of little pivots and constant adaptation, rather than watching you drive a company completely into the ground. A massive failure isn't some badge of honor. Adapting before you hit the brick wall, that's the real badge of honor. So what really scares off investors during the scaling phase? 3 major red flags. First, founders who just threw their hands up and quit entirely. Second, founders who lack mental solidity, because let's face it, a struggling business usually mirrors a struggling founder. And third, founders who don't know their crucial daily heartbeat statistic. If you wake up in a cold sweat at 2 in the morning, you need to know exactly what that one critical metric is. For Herjavec, it was cash flow. For you, it might be customer acquisition cost, or maybe daily active users. But whatever it is, you absolutely must know it. And hey, you also have to protect your capital from those easy money traps. Herjavec shares this agonizing story from his 20s where he bought a random stock on margin just because someone promised it would explode overnight. He took $2,500, and get this, half of it was literally scraped off a credit card, and he lost every single penny when the company tanked. Having to go to your parents to bail you out over a bad stock tip, that is a humbling, painful experience that stays with you. The lesson is crystal clear. Never chase easy money. Which brings us to Section 4, Mastering Sales and Communication. If investors or customers just aren't getting your pitch, you gotta remember his brutally honest advice to a Shark Tank couple who accused him of not listening. He looked right at them and said, "It is not my responsibility to listen to you, it's your responsibility to be heard." The burden of clear communication is 100% on you. If you can't communicate clearly, it literally does not matter if you have the best product in the world. No one's gonna buy it. But wait, what if you're an introverted engineer who is absolutely terrified of sales? The secret is to just be authentic. Herjavec actually had this super nervous salesman on his team once. The guy was sweating, stumbling over his words, and frankly doing a terrible job because he was trying to be the slick salesperson he wasn't. Herjavec told the guy to just admit to the client that he was terrified and that it was his very first sales call. So he did exactly that. And you know what happened? The tension in the room instantly evaporated. The customers completely disarmed and actually wanted to help him succeed. People are naturally kind to those who are vulnerable and just starting out. True authenticity disarms people in a way no polished corporate sales script ever could. All right, Section 5, the billionaire productivity mindset. Amidst all this chaos, how do you actually get things done? Here is a phenomenal productivity hack he uses to guarantee constant forward momentum. Every morning, you wake up, you ignore the crazy noise of 100 unread emails, and you isolate just 3 things you absolutely must accomplish that day. Not 10, not 20, just 3. And you literally refuse to go to sleep until they are finished. This incredibly simple trick strips away the illusion of just being busy and forces actual, meaningful progress. But actually getting those 3 things done takes motivation, and true motivation isn't what happens when things are easy. I mean, anyone can be motivated when the sun is shining, revenue's pouring in, and everyone loves you. True motivation is pushing through those tasks on a rainy Tuesday when your dog bit you, your biggest client just bailed, everything feels like a total disaster, and you feel like a failure in your bones. If you can still execute your 3 tasks on that day, then you have what it takes. Finally, let's wrap up with Section 6, Leadership, Pressure, and Success. As your company scales from 2 people in a tiny garage to 1,000 employees across the globe, that pressure, it never goes away. Instead, you have to adopt this awesome quote from tennis legend Martina Navratilova and view pressure as a badge of honor. The more successful you get, the more intense the pressure is going to be. You can't sanitize scale and remove the chaos. You just have to embrace it fully without letting it break you. So how do you manage that immense pressure without losing your mind? He relies on a simple 3-part rule for major decisions. First, your knee-jerk gut reaction is usually the right one. Second, avoid any massive, unnecessary risks that could literally kill the company in one single blow. And third, respect the power of sleep. Force some mental clarity by taking in the data, stepping away, and literally sleeping on it before you make the final call. And when it comes to actually leading that massive team, you can't just manage tasks on a spreadsheet. After dining with world leaders and top CEOs, Herjavec noticed that the greatest leadership lessons actually come from parables. People don't want to just be told what to do. They want to be led. They want to be inspired. You drive action through engaging, powerful storytelling that connects everyone to a much larger vision. Because ultimately, circling all the way back to the start, there is no magic door. Wealth is not going to suddenly fix your life or magically turn you into a happy person. It really just acts as a magnifying glass, amplifying exactly who you already are today. Which leaves us with this final, provocative thought to take away from our explainer today. If success won't change your core, who are you choosing to be right now on the journey?